Before we dive into this story, I want to issue a brief content warning. This presentation delves into themes of psychological distress, existential dread, and the profound, unsettling nature of reality. Listener discretion is advised. The first thing I noticed was the light. It wasn't the soft, diffused glow of the Denver sunrise I'd woken up to for the past 7 years. This light was sharper, colder, reflecting off glass and steel, painting the unfamiliar ceiling with stark, geometric patterns. My eyes fluttered open, trying to make sense of the room. It wasn't my room. The minimalist decor, the expensive art print on the wall, the scent of lavender and something vaguely metallic, none of it was mine. Panic, cold and sharp, began to claw its way up my throat. I shot upright, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Sarah!" I rasped, my voice thick with sleep and confusion. A woman stirred beside me. She had long, dark hair spread across the pillow, her face turned away. She murmured something I couldn't quite make out, then slowly rolled over, her eyes blinking open. They were a startling shade of green, framed by long lashes. Her face, even groggy with sleep, was undeniably beautiful, and entirely unfamiliar. My breath hitched. This wasn't Sarah. Sarah had warm hazel eyes, a scattering of freckles across her nose, and a laugh that could chase away any shadow. This woman, this stranger, looked at me with an expression that was part sleepy affection, part mild annoyance at being woken. "Michael," she mumbled, her voice husky. "What's wrong? You okay?" My name. She knew my name. But who was she? My mind raced, frantically searching for an explanation. A dream? A prank? But the room felt too real, the scent too distinct, the panic too visceral. Who are you?" I managed, the words catching in my dry throat. Her green eyes widened, losing their sleepiness, replaced by a flicker of concern, then hurt. "Michael, what are you talking about?" "It's me, Emily. Your wife." Wife. The word hit me like a physical blow. Emily. I had never met an Emily in my life. Not one I'd married, certainly. My wife was Sarah. We had been together for almost 10 years. We lived in a cozy craftsman home in the Highlands neighborhood of Denver. We had 2 dogs, a golden retriever named Gus and a terrier mix named Luna. We had plans. We had a life. I swung my legs out of bed, ignoring Emily's increasingly worried gaze. My feet touched a plush, deep pile carpet that definitely wasn't the worn hardwood floors of my bedroom in Denver. I stumbled towards the window, pulling back the heavy curtains. And that's when the true horror set in. Below me, not the familiar tree-lined streets of Denver, but a sprawling, glistening cityscape. Towering glass skyscrapers pierced the morning fog, a massive Ferris wheel slowly turning on a distant waterfront, and the iconic Space Needle stood sentinel against a gray, overcast sky. Seattle. I was in Seattle. My blood ran cold. I'd never lived in Seattle. I'd visited once for a weekend conference years ago. But this wasn't a visit. This was home. This was my view. "Michael, you're scaring me," Emily said, now fully awake, her voice edged with genuine fear. She was sitting up, pulling the duvet around her. "Are you feeling all right? Did you hit your head?" I turned to her, my hands shaking. I don't understand. This isn't my life. I live in Denver. With Sarah. We're married. We have Gus and Luna. I work at the university. This isn't real." Emily stared at me, her beautiful face now etched with a mixture of terror and confusion. "Denver? Sarah. Michael, we've lived here in this condo for 3 years. We got married 4 years ago. You're a senior software architect at Horizon Tech. We don't have any dogs. We've talked about getting a cat, but you always said you were allergic." Her words painted a picture of a life that was undeniably mine, yet completely foreign. A successful career, a beautiful wife, a luxurious condo in a vibrant city. A life that, on paper, many people would kill for. But it wasn't my life. It was someone else's. And yet I was in it. I was him. I stumbled out of the bedroom, my eyes darting around the open concept living space. A sleek, modern kitchen with stainless steel appliances. A wall of books, none of which I recognized. A framed photo on a side table. I snatched it up. It was a wedding photo. Emily, radiant in a white gown, her arm linked with mine. My face smiling, looking genuinely happy. But a happiness I couldn't recall. A happiness that felt stolen. My reflection in the glass of the photo caught my eye. It was me, undoubtedly. The same slightly receding hairline, the same strong jaw, the same blue eyes. But there was something different in the eyes, a subtle sharpness, a confidence I didn't recognize. Or maybe it was just the panic distorting my perception. "Michael, please," Emily pleaded, having followed me out, her voice trembling. "Let's just sit down. Let's call a doctor." "A doctor?" "Yes, a doctor. Maybe I was having some kind of psychotic break. Maybe I had a brain tumor. Maybe I was dreaming and I just needed to wake up." I pinched myself. Hard. Nothing. The pain was real. The cold sweat on my brow was real. The terror was agonizingly real. I dropped the photo, hearing the faint clink of glass against wood. My mind was a whirlwind, desperately trying to find an anchor, a memory that made sense. And then it hit me. A flash, vivid and instantaneous, like a lightning strike in the fog of my confusion. 7 years ago, the summer of my 28th year, Sarah and I were just starting to talk about marriage. I was working a comfortable, if uninspiring job as a junior lecturer at the University of Denver. Then the phone call came. An offer. A phenomenal offer from a burgeoning tech startup in Seattle, Horizon Tech. They wanted me to join their team as a lead software developer. It was a massive leap, a chance to accelerate my career exponentially. I remembered the agonizing sleepless nights, the long conversations with Sarah, her unwavering support, telling me to follow my dreams, even if it meant a temporary long-distance relationship. But I also remembered my fear. The fear of leaving everything familiar, of the relentless pace of the tech world, of being separated from Sarah. And I remembered the choice. I had turned it down. I had called their HR representative, Mark Jensen, and politely declined the offer, explaining that my roots were in Denver, that my life was there. Sarah had hugged me so tight that night, her relief palpable, her love a warm blanket. We had celebrated with takeout and cheap wine, reaffirming our commitment to each other and to our life in Denver. I had chosen stability, love, and the familiar over ambition and the unknown. But now I was living the life I had rejected. I was a senior software architect at Horizon Tech. I was married to Emily. I was in Seattle. It was as if, at that precise moment 7 years ago, when I made the phone call, the universe had fractured. One version of me, the one I remembered, had stayed in Denver. The other, this one, had taken the job, moved to Seattle, and built an entirely different life. And somehow, impossibly, I had slipped into this timeline. The thought was so utterly insane, so profoundly terrifying that it almost made me laugh. A hysterical, unhinged laugh that bubbled up and died in my chest. "Michael, please, we need to get you help." Emily's voice was softer now, tinged with pity. She was reaching for her phone. "No," I shouted, the word echoing in the pristine apartment. "Don't call anyone. You won't understand. Nobody will understand." I paced, my mind racing, trying to find a flaw in my own terrifying logic. Was it a coma? A rare form of amnesia where I'd created an entire false history? But the memories of Denver, of Sarah, of Gus and Luna, they weren't vague or dreamlike. They were solid, vibrant, filled with emotion and detail. I could taste Sarah's homemade lasagna, hear Gus's excited bark when I came home, feel the rough brick of our fireplace. This life with Emily in Seattle, it felt like a meticulously crafted simulation. Everything was perfect, but it lacked the texture, the lived-in warmth of my real life. I remembered something from a science fiction novel I'd read years ago, about parallel universes, about choices branching into infinite possibilities. But that was fiction. This was my present, my horrific, undeniable present. I needed proof, something, anything that could connect this reality to my own. I grabbed my phone from the bedside table. It was a newer model than mine, sleek and unfamiliar, but it recognized my fingerprint. I scrolled through the contacts, the apps, everything confirming Emily's story. No Sarah, no Gus, no Luna, no Denver University. Then a sudden chilling thought. If I had chosen Seattle, what happened to the other Michael? The one who stayed in Denver? Was he living my life? Was he still with Sarah? Or had he too been displaced? The implications were staggering. If my choice had split my timeline, then there were two versions of me existing in parallel. And I was in the wrong one. The question wasn't just how I got here, but why? And more importantly, how do I get back? I looked at Emily again, her face a mask of concern and fear. She was my wife in this reality, a beautiful, kind woman who thought I was losing my mind. And in her eyes, I saw not a stranger, but a reflection of the utter disorientation that had become my world. The choice I made 7 years ago had not just shaped my future, it had shattered my very existence. And I had no idea how to put the pieces back together. I knew my world was shattered, but I had no idea how many pieces it had broken into, or how sharp they would feel. The reflection staring back wasn't a stranger, not entirely. It was me, but wrong. Older somehow. A weariness etched around the eyes that wasn't mine. A subtle harshness in the set of the jaw. It was like looking at a photograph of myself from 10 years in the future, after a life I couldn't possibly imagine. I splashed cold water on my face again and again, rubbing at my eyes as if to clear a persistent film, but the image remained. The stranger in my skin. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden, terrifying silence of the apartment. This couldn't be real. This had to be a dream, a stress-induced hallucination. I reached for my phone, needing the familiar weight of it, the comfort of my own digital world. The phone I picked up felt different. The case wasn't mine. This one was a sleek metallic silver, not my faded navy blue. And the lock screen, it wasn't my usual abstract geometric pattern. Instead, it was a photo of a woman, radiant, smiling brightly, her arm linked with mine. A version of me, younger perhaps, but undeniably me, looking genuinely happy. And on my left hand in the photo, a simple gold band. A jolt of pure ice shot through my veins. I looked down at my own left hand. Empty. Bare. With trembling fingers, I swiped to unlock. The wallpaper was different. The apps were arranged differently. My usual social media icons were gone, replaced by business-centric applications I didn't recognize. Then I saw it. A string of text messages from a contact named Jessica Chun. Hey Mike, don't forget the presentation for Mr. Henderson today. Big deal. Don't be late again, seriously. Mike, my name is Michael, and I didn't know any Jessica Chun. Mr. Henderson? What presentation? I worked as a graphic designer at Pixelworks. I spent my days crafting logos and web layouts, not giving presentations to mysterious Mr. Hendersons. I scrolled through the messages, a growing sense of dread pooling in my stomach. They were all work-related, urgent, and addressed to Mike. They spoke of Sterling Solutions, a corporate giant I'd only ever seen mentioned in business news. My company, Pixelworks, wasn't even in the same industry. I checked my calendar. Today, 9 a.m. Henderson pitched Sterling Solutions HQ. It was already 8:15 a.m. Panic, cold and sharp, began to set in. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a hallucination. My phone, my digital anchor to reality, was broadcasting a completely different life. I stumbled out of the bathroom, my gaze sweeping across the apartment. It was familiar in layout, but everything else was wrong. The furniture was modern, minimalist, all glass and chrome. My own apartment was cozy, filled with books, an old worn-out armchair, and art prints I'd collected over the years. Here, the walls were bare save for a few abstract canvases. On a sleek, polished mantelpiece, there was another framed photograph. It was the same woman from the phone lock screen, Emily Davis, her smile warm and genuine, standing next to me. A version of me. This Michael had a confident, almost arrogant tilt to his head, a sparkle in his eyes that I couldn't recall ever possessing. And yes, there it was again. The gold band on his left hand, glinting under the soft light. Emily Davis. The name clicked, a distant echo from my past. I dated an Emily Davis briefly in college. It had been casual fun but nothing serious. We drifted apart amicably after graduation. But here, in this photograph, we looked like more than just amicable exes. We looked like a life that wasn't mine. I tore through the drawers in the kitchen, then the living room. Everything confirmed my terrifying suspicion. Bills addressed to Michael Thompson at this unfamiliar address. Bank statements from a different bank. A wallet, sleek leather, not my worn-out canvas one. Inside, my driver's license. It had my face, my name, but a different signature, a different address, and a birth date that was a year off. And a corporate ID badge. Michael Thompson, Senior Account Executive, Sterling Solutions. My head swam. Senior Account Executive, Sterling Solutions. Married to Emily Davis. This wasn't just a different path, it was a different person. My life, the one I remembered, the one I had lived for 32 years, was gone. Erased. Replaced by this sleek, successful, married stranger. The phone in my hand vibrated again. Jessica Chun. This time it was a call. My breath hitched. What was I supposed to say? How could I explain that the Mike she knew wasn't here, that I was an intruder in my own body? I let it ring, the sound an insistent, jarring intrusion in the silent apartment. It stopped. A text message immediately followed. Mike, seriously? Don't tell me you're having one of your moments again. This is important. Mr. Henderson is not a patient man. Moments? What did that mean? Did this Michael have a history of erratic behavior? Memory lapses? The thought sent a fresh wave of fear through me. Not only was I an imposter, but I might be an imposter with a reputation for being unstable. I had to get out. I had to find my real apartment, my real life. I grabbed the wallet, snatched a set of car keys from a small dish by the door. I glanced at the address on the ID. It was in a completely different part of the city than my apartment. Somewhere unfamiliar, upscale. I rushed out of the apartment, the strange metallic phone still clutched in my hand. The hallway was identical to my own building, but the smell was different. A faint, expensive floral scent instead of the familiar aroma of stale coffee and old carpet. I took the elevator down, my mind racing, trying to overlay my memories of the city with the reality I was now experiencing. When I reached the parking garage, my own beat-up sedan, my trusted companion for years, was nowhere in sight. Instead, parked in the spot designated for my apartment number, was a gleaming dark gray sports car, low to the ground, impossibly sleek. The keys in my hand felt heavy, alien. I pressed the unlock button. The sports car's lights flashed. I got in, the leather interior smelling new, expensive. My hands felt awkward on the unfamiliar steering wheel. The radio was tuned to a classical music station, something I never listened to. I fumbled with the navigation system, punching in the address of my own apartment, the one I'd lived in for the past 5 years. The system processed the request, then displayed a message. Address not found. Please verify. What? I muttered, my voice hoarse. I tried again, meticulously typing in every digit, every street name. Same result. Address not found. A cold dread spread through me. Had my apartment building been demolished? Replaced? This timeline was not just different, it was diverging in fundamental ways. I pulled out of the garage, determined to navigate by memory. The city streets outside were both familiar and subtly wrong. The old bookstore I loved was a trendy juice bar. The historic clock tower that marked the city center was now flanked by a towering, futuristic glass skyscraper. It was like looking at a distorted reflection of my home, a place that was almost but not quite right. I pulled out the strange phone again. I needed to call David Miller, my best friend, my rock. He'd know what to do. I found his name in my original phone's contacts, the one I had memorized. I dialed it. A woman's voice answered. The number you have dialed is not in service. My stomach dropped. I tried my own number, the one I'd had for years. A man answered gruffly. Who is this? I hung up, my hand shaking. Who was I? Who was Michael Thompson? Then a desperate thought. My parents. They would know me. They would confirm my reality. I found their number, still etched in my memory, and dialed. It rang. Hello. My mother's voice. It was her, but it sounded different. A little sharper, less warm. Mom? It's Michael, I said, my voice cracking. Michael, honey, are you okay? You sound strange. Did you finally wake up? There was an edge of frustration in her voice. You're going to be late for that Henderson meeting. Emily called, she was worried. Emily. She was worried. My mother was talking about Emily, about the Henderson meeting. My own mother didn't recognize my reality. She thought I was this Michael. Mom, what are you talking about? What Emily? What meeting? I'm a graphic designer. I work at Pixelworks. There was a pause. Then my mother's voice, laced with a familiar exasperation. Michael, honey, are you having one of your moments again? We talked about this. You're an account executive at Sterling Solutions. You've been with Emily for 5 years, you lived together. You proposed last month, remember? We're so excited for the wedding. Proposed? Wedding. 5 years. My head reeled. The choice. 7 years ago. Hammered in my brain. After college, David and I had a dream. We wanted to start our own design studio, Pixelworks. It was a risky venture, but it was our passion. At the same time, Emily and I were casually dating. She was wonderful, but I wasn't ready to settle down. Not while I was chasing a dream. I remembered the conversation clearly. Emily had been offered a job in another city. She'd asked me to come with her, to take a stable corporate job she'd found for me at a place called Sterling Solutions. She'd painted a picture of a secure future, a comfortable life. I had chosen David. I had chosen Pixelworks. I had chosen my passion, and in doing so, I had let Emily go. It had been a difficult, painful decision, but I had never regretted it. Until now. Now it seemed I had chosen Emily. I had chosen Sterling Solutions. I had chosen the secure, comfortable life. And in doing so, I had lost David. I had lost Pixelworks. I had lost myself. I hung up, unable to speak, the phone feeling like a lead weight. My vision blurred. The city streets, once vaguely familiar, now seemed utterly alien, a mocking landscape of what could have been, or what was for this other Michael. The choice. That one choice 7 years ago had splintered my existence, and I was trapped in the wrong shard. As I drove aimlessly now, the overwhelming disorientation was slowly giving way to a chilling fear. I needed to get back to my own life, to my own timeline. But how? And what if I couldn't? Through the haze of my panic, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror. A car. Dark, nondescript, several lengths behind me. It had been there for a while. I realized, a faint, unsettling presence I had dismissed as paranoia. But it was still there. I made a sudden, sharp turn down a side street. The car followed. My breath hitched. It wasn't paranoia. My heart hammered, not just from confusion now, but from a primal, cold terror. I wasn't just lost, I was being watched. I pushed the sports car faster, my mind racing for an escape, for a safe haven. I just needed to get to my apartment. My real apartment. I sped through traffic, my eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror. The dark car was relentless. Finally, I reached the block where my building, my home, should have stood. My sanctuary. But it wasn't there. In its place was a gaping, empty lot, overgrown with weeds, surrounded by a chain-link fence. A faded sign, barely legible, read, "Future site of Sterling Solutions Annex." My breath caught in my throat. My home was gone. My life was gone. My timeline, my reality had been utterly obliterated. I pulled the car over, my hands clenched on the steering wheel, my body shaking uncontrollably. The dark car, a block behind me, pulled to a stop. I was adrift, alone, and trapped in a life that wasn't mine. And someone was watching. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing the chaos in my mind. The dark car, a sleek obsidian shadow, remained a block behind me. Its headlights, two unblinking eyes in the rearview mirror. They hadn't moved. They were just watching. The air conditioning in my car, which I now realized was a high-end luxury sedan I didn't recognize, suddenly felt suffocating. Every breath was shallow, every muscle taut. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed its way up my throat. I couldn't stay here. I had to move. But where? My apartment, the one I'd woken up in, was a trap. My office, if I even had one in this reality, was unknown territory. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, and forced myself to take a deep, shuddering breath. This wasn't a nightmare, it was real. And someone knew. I needed to disappear. Fast. I jammed the car into drive, tires squealing as I pulled away from the curb. I didn't care about speed limits. I didn't care about traffic laws. All I cared about was putting distance between myself and that ominous vehicle. I weaved through the late-night traffic, taking sharp turns, running a yellow light that was already red by the time I cleared the intersection. I checked my mirror frantically. The dark car was still there, maintaining its distance, a persistent predator. It wasn't trying to catch me, it was hurting me. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. One moment I was David Miller, a struggling graphic designer, living a quiet life, mourning the loss of my parents years ago, and still reeling from a painful breakup with Emily. The next, I was David Miller, successful architect married to Jessica with parents who were very much alive. The sheer weight of this reality threatened to crush me. How could this have happened? The only thing I could cling to was the memory of that moment, that choice. The choice I'd made, or perhaps the choice I hadn't made. I remembered it with startling clarity now, a moment that had felt insignificant at the time, a crossroads that seemed to lead to two equally mundane paths. It was 5 years ago. I had just been offered a junior position at a prestigious architecture firm, a path my father, an architect himself, had always encouraged. But at the same time, a small independent art studio had offered me an internship, a chance to pursue my true passion for illustration. My father was ill then, nearing the end. He'd always wanted me to follow in his footsteps, to build something tangible, lasting. Emily had urged me to take the art internship to follow my heart. I remember the immense pressure, the sleepless nights. In my original timeline, I had chosen the art internship, a decision that led to years of creative struggle, but also a deep sense of personal fulfillment, even if it meant financial hardship and eventually a strained relationship with my father before he passed. He'd wanted more for me, but in this timeline I hadn't made that choice. I must have chosen the architecture firm. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. This lavish car, the expensive clothes, the apartment. This was the life I would have had if I'd followed my father's dying wish. This was the life of the architect. The dark car behind me made a sudden move, accelerating, closing the gap. My heart leaped into my throat. I swerved into a different lane, narrowly avoiding a collision, the blare of a horn echoing behind me. This wasn't just following. This was a warning, or an intimidation tactic. I needed to know who I was, who this David Miller was, to understand what to do next. I pulled off the main road onto a quieter residential street, hoping to lose them in the maze of suburban houses. My hands, still trembling, reached for my wallet. It was a sleek black leather wallet, far more refined than my old worn-out one. I fumbled it open, my eyes scanning the contents. A driver's license stared back at me. David Miller. My name. But the picture, it was me, undoubtedly, but older, more refined, a subtle confidence in the eyes that wasn't present in my memory. The address listed was the high-rise apartment I'd woken up in. The occupation, architect. Underneath, a business card for Miller and Associates Architecture, with my name as senior partner. Senior partner. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. My father's dream, realized by a version of me I barely recognized. Credit cards, multiple of them, all premium with high limits. A health insurance card, a gym membership card for an exclusive club. Everything screamed success, stability, a life meticulously built. But it wasn't my life. My phone vibrated in my pocket, startling me. I pulled it out, a top-of-the-line smartphone, not the older model I remembered owning. The lock screen showed a picture of Jessica, smiling, her arm around me, in front of a lavish villa overlooking the ocean. My stomach churned. I unlocked it, my thumb fumbling. The wallpaper was still that picture. My contacts list was a sea of unfamiliar names, interspersed with a few that sounded vaguely familiar, but without any context. No Emily. No familiar friends from my art school days. Just clients, colleagues, and Jessica, my love. A new message blinked at the top of the screen. From Jessica. It read, "Dinner still on tonight, babe? Don't be late, my parents are excited to see you. Love you." Her parents. This was moving too fast. I stared at the message, a cold dread seeping into my bones. I was supposed to have dinner with my wife's parents, the very woman I barely knew, whose existence felt like a cruel joke. I scrolled through my recent calls. A number I didn't recognize, labeled the firm, had called several times. Another one, estate management, had also called. No calls from my old life, no familiar voices reaching out. I was utterly alone in this opulent cage. The dark car was still behind me. I glanced in the mirror, and this time it wasn't just sitting there. Its headlights flashed once, a sharp, deliberate signal. Then again. Morse code? A secret message? My mind was too scrambled to decipher anything. I had to find out what was happening. I had to find a way back, or at least understand why I was here. My fingers instinctively typed Emily's old number into the phone's keypad. I hit call, my heart pounding with a desperate, irrational hope. The line rang once, twice, then a polite automated voice informed me, "The number you have dialed is not in service." My breath hitched. Emily was gone. Or her number was gone. Or she never existed in this timeline, not in the way I remembered. A new message popped up on the screen, not from Jessica, not from any contact I knew. It was from an unknown number. My hand shook as I opened it. The message was short, cryptic, and sent a chill down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold air conditioning. "They know you're not supposed to be here. Don't go home. Don't go to dinner. Go to the abandoned warehouse district, Pier 17. Now, you have less than an hour before they find you. The choice you made or didn't make has consequences far beyond what you imagine. And some people don't want you messing with their timeline." My blood ran cold. They know. Not just the person in the dark car, but some unseen they. And they knew about the choice. My choice. The choice that had birthed this nightmare. Pier 17. An abandoned warehouse district. A meeting in the shadows. This wasn't just a mistaken identity. This was a deliberate, calculated intervention. Someone was trying to help me, or lure me into a deeper trap. But the alternative, going back to that apartment, facing Jessica and her parents, pretending to be a man I wasn't, all while that dark car watched, felt even more terrifying. I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. The dark car was no longer a block behind. It was slowly, deliberately pulling up right behind me, its high beams flashing, momentarily blinding me. I could feel the heat of its engine, the silent hum of its power. No one got out. It just waited, a silent, menacing sentinel. My hands instinctively tightened on the steering wheel. Pier 17. It was an impossible choice. But then again, my entire life had just become impossible. I had to go. I had to find answers. My only hope lay in the cryptic message, in the slim chance that someone somewhere understood what was happening to me. I took a deep breath, the metallic taste of fear in my mouth, and pulled away from the curb, turning away from the life I was supposed to have, and towards an unknown, dangerous destination. The dark car remained, not following, but watching me disappear into the night, as if confirming my compliance. I was walking into a trap, or perhaps the only way out. The bitter wind clawed at my exposed skin as I walked, the city lights shrinking behind me until only the dim, scattered glow of a forgotten industrial district remained. Every step felt like a drumbeat, echoing the finality of my decision. The address I'd been given led me down a narrow, unlit alleyway, past crumbling brick walls spray-painted with faded graffiti, past overflowing dumpsters that reeked of decay. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. This wasn't a path to salvation. It was a descent. At the very end of the alley, nestled between a derelict auto shop and a boarded-up warehouse, was a door. It was unassuming, painted a dull, peeling gray, with no visible handle or doorbell. Just a smooth, featureless rectangle of metal. I hesitated, my hand hovering, my breath catching in my throat. This was it. The point of no return. As if on cue, a soft, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the air, and a thin line of blue light traced itself around the door's perimeter before it silently slid inward, revealing not a dark interior, but a blindingly sterile white corridor. The air inside was cold, dry, and smelled faintly of ozone and antiseptic. It was stark, clean, and utterly devoid of warmth. I stepped through, the door sealing behind me with a soft hiss, plunging me into an unnatural silence that pressed in on my ears. The corridor stretched endlessly, illuminated by recessed lighting that cast no shadows. My footsteps were disturbingly loud on the polished floor. I walked for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing, trying to reconcile this bizarre reality with the mundane life I'd led just hours ago. Finally, the corridor opened into a circular room. In the center, a single sleek black table stood, flanked by two high-backed chairs. One was empty. In the other sat a man. He was impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his silver hair neatly combed, his face unreadable. He looked to be in his late 50s, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He didn't smile, didn't offer a greeting. He simply watched me approach, his gaze unwavering. "Please, Alex," he said, his voice smooth, calm, and carrying an unsettling authority that chilled me to the bone. "Have a seat." My name. He knew my name. Of course he did. They knew everything. I sank into the chair opposite him, the material cool against my skin. The room was soundproofed, I realized. No hums, no city noises. Just the quiet whir of an unseen ventilation system. "My name is Sterling," he began, his hands clasped neatly on the table. "And I believe you have some questions." I swallowed, my throat dry. Who are you? What is this place? What do you want from me?" The questions tumbled out, desperate and raw. Sterling merely steepled his fingers. "We are an organization dedicated to the preservation of reality, and this place is merely a facility. As for what we want from you, Alex, that is rather complex. But it begins with understanding your unique predicament." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "You made a choice, Alex. A very specific choice at a very specific moment in your life. Do you recall it?" My mind raced, trying to pinpoint a single monumental decision amidst the countless choices I'd made. I've made many choices." "Indeed," Sterling conceded. "But one stands out. A pivotal moment roughly 3 years ago. You were presented with a dilemma. regarding your former employer, Omnicorp, a new AI ethics framework you had developed, a product launch that conflicted with your convictions. My blood ran cold. He knew about that. The memory was vivid. Omnicorp was on the verge of launching a groundbreaking AI system, one I'd helped design. But as I delved deeper into its potential applications, I uncovered serious ethical concerns, data privacy loopholes, and a disturbing lack of safeguards. I'd spent months developing an alternative, a more ethical framework, which I presented to my superiors. I was given a choice. Drop it, stay silent, and reap the rewards of the launch, or push back, risk my career, and potentially expose the company. I chose to stay silent. I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. I let it go. I took the promotion, the bonus. It was a decision that had haunted me, a compromise I'd made for stability, for comfort. Sterling nodded slowly. Precisely. And in that instant, Alex, your timeline fractured. You see, there was another path, another reality where you made a different choice. A reality where you spoke out, where you fought for your convictions, where you sacrificed your career for what you believed was right. He paused, letting the words sink in. My mind reeled. Another reality? A split timeline? This was beyond anything I could comprehend. But why does that matter now? I asked, my voice trembling. It was my choice. It's my life. It matters, Sterling explained, his tone unwavering. Because the existence of that divergent path, that alternate choice, has created an anomaly. A ripple in the fabric of reality itself. Think of it as two identical streams, flowing side by side, but one has been subtly diverted. Over time, that deviation creates turbulence, instability, and now those two streams, your stream and the other, are threatening to merge catastrophically. The energy required to maintain both realities is becoming unsustainable. And you, Alex, are the key to its stabilization. Me. I scoffed, a desperate laugh escaping my lips. How? I just made a decision. I didn't invent a time machine. Your unique position, Sterling said, as the nexus point of this divergence, makes you invaluable. You are the only individual who has experienced both the initial choice and the resulting reality. You are, in essence, a living bridge between these two timelines, even if you only consciously inhabit one. So what? You want me to go back and change my choice? The thought was ludicrous. Sterling shook his head. No, that is not how this works. Attempting to directly alter the past is catastrophic. What we need you to do is to retrieve something, an artifact, let's call it, from the other timeline, a specific piece of information or an object whose absence or presence is exacerbating the instability. An artifact? I repeated, my head spinning. What kind of artifact? From the timeline where you chose to speak out, Sterling elaborated, there exists a document, a manifesto, if you will, the culmination of your ethical framework, refined and expanded after you left Omnicorp. In that reality, it became a cornerstone for a new movement, a global standard for AI development. It is a powerful, resonant piece of work, Alex. And it needs to be brought here. My own work, my forgotten passion. In another life, it had become something monumental. And now I had to retrieve it from that life. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. Why can't you just get it yourselves? I challenged, trying to find a loophole, a way out. Sterling's gaze hardened slightly. Interference in a divergent timeline carries immense risks. A direct, unguided extraction by our agents could cause irreparable damage. But you, Alex, are already a part of both. Your presence is less disruptive. You are the path of least resistance. You are the only one who can navigate this without triggering a full-scale collapse. Collapse? I pushed, needing to understand the full scope of the threat. Imagine, Sterling said, his voice dropping to a grave whisper. Two identical photographs, perfectly aligned. But then one begins to fray at the edges, distort, bleed into the other. Eventually, both become unrecognizable, a chaotic blur. That is what will happen to both your reality and the other if this anomaly is not corrected. Cities will vanish. Memories will warp. People will cease to exist. It will be an unmaking, a total unraveling. The weight of his words crushed me. My choice, my moment of weakness, could lead to the annihilation of everything. My family, my friends, my entire world. And the world of the other Alex, too. So, I have to go to this other timeline? I asked, a fresh wave of terror washing over me. How? What do I do there? We will facilitate a temporary transit, Sterling explained. A brief window. You will appear in the approximate location and time of your other self 3 years after your choice. You will need to locate this manifesto. It will be in your possession, or in a place you would naturally keep such a significant document. You retrieve it and you return. Simple. Simple. Nothing about this was simple. My mind was reeling, trying to process the sheer impossibility of it all. I was being asked to cross into an alternate reality, steal a document from another version of myself, all to prevent the apocalypse. And if I refuse? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The cold, dark car. The silent threat. Sterling's expression remained impassive. Refusal, Alex, is not an option. The instability is accelerating. If you do not comply, we will be forced to take less precise measures. Measures that carry a much higher probability of catastrophic failure for both timelines. In essence, you will have chosen to condemn billions to oblivion, including yourself. He wasn't threatening me with death. He was threatening me with the end of everything. My choice had split my timeline, and now my compliance was the only thing standing between reality and oblivion. I was a pawn trapped in a game I didn't understand, with stakes I couldn't comprehend. There was no escape, only the terrifying path forward, into a life I hadn't lived, to steal from a self I hadn't become. The silence in the sterile room pressed in, a suffocating blanket of dread. I was no longer just Alex, a software engineer with a troubled past. I was a desperate agent, a reluctant savior, hurtling towards an impossible mission to save a reality I barely recognized. Dr. Eris's voice, calm yet urgent, cut through the haze of my panic. Alex, you understand the gravity of this, don't you? I nodded, though my throat felt glued shut. Gravity? That was an understatement. I felt like an asteroid, ripped from its orbit, hurtling towards an unknown planet. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. Your choice, Alex, the one you made at the crossroads of your life, wasn't just a personal decision. It was a quantum event. It created a ripple, a divergence that in a stable reality would simply branch off. But our reality, it was already at a tipping point. He gestured to a holographic display that flickered to life on a nearby console. It showed a complex web of intersecting lines, some glowing steadily, others frayed and unstable, like worn-out rope. Each line is a potential timeline, a stream of causality. Yours, Alex, was a major tributary. When it split, it didn't just create a new path. It destabilized the very banks of the river. We're seeing what we call temporal bleed-throughs and causal distortions at an alarming rate. Temporal bleed-throughs. Causal distortions. My head spun. What does that even mean? I managed to choke out. It means reality is struggling to maintain its coherence, Eris explained, his tone patient, as if explaining complex code to a novice. People, objects, even entire events from your original timeline, or from other divergent paths, are manifesting here. Not always physically, but as echoes, inconsistencies, or outright paradoxes. And the longer they persist, the more reality unravels. He zoomed in on a particularly frayed section of the holographic web. Our primary concern right now is a specific distortion field manifesting in downtown Boston. It's centered around a man named Marcus Thorne. In your original timeline, he was a mid-level accountant, lived a quiet life, died peacefully in his sleep at 78. Here, in this reality, he's a prominent architect, responsible for several major city infrastructure projects. And he's unwell. My brows furrowed. Unwell? What does that have to do with anything? He's experiencing what we call temporal dissonance, Eris stated, his eyes scanning the data on the display. His mind, his very being, is a battleground between two conflicting timelines. His memories are jumbled, his personality fractured. Sometimes he's the accountant, sometimes the architect. And his presence, his unstable presence, is acting like a magnet for other smaller distortions. A chill snaked down my spine. This wasn't just about fixing a broken machine. It was about a human being caught in the crossfire of my decision. So what do I do about him? Do I talk to him? Explain. Eris let out a soft, humorless chuckle. Explain what, Alex? That he's not supposed to be the man he is? That his entire life is a mistake born from your choice? No. That would likely accelerate the dissonance, perhaps even trigger a full-scale reality collapse in his immediate vicinity. Our goal is not to confront him directly, not yet. Your first task is reconnaissance. We need to understand the full scope of the bleed-throughs he's attracting. He turned to a sterile metal tray on a nearby table, picking up a sleek, almost invisible device. It looked like a pair of high-tech eyeglasses, but the lenses were translucent, barely there. This is the Chronos lens. It's designed to filter out the noise of our stable reality and highlight temporal anomalies. You'll see flickers, distortions in the air, objects that aren't quite there, or are subtly different. You'll be able to perceive the echoes. He handed them to me. They felt impossibly light, cool against my fingers. Put them on. I hesitated for a moment, then slid them onto my face. They fit perfectly, contouring to my temples. For a moment, nothing changed. The sterile room remained the same. Then, a subtle shimmer at the edge of my vision. A faint, almost imperceptible ripple in the air above a cabinet, like heat haze but without the heat. My breath hitched. "That," Eris said, noticing my reaction, "is a minor residual echo. Nothing significant. But in a highly distorted field, it'll be like looking into a kaleidoscope of broken glass. You'll also have an auditory component. Faint whispers, discordant sounds, fragments of conversations that don't belong." He then produced a small silver cuff, intricate and delicate, which he fastened onto my wrist. "This is a localized field generator. It won't protect you from a major temporal event, but it will help stabilize your own perception and prevent minor bleed-throughs from affecting you directly. Think of it as a personal firewall." My mind raced. "So I go to Marcus Thorne, I wear these glasses, and I look for weird stuff?" "Precisely," Eris confirmed. "You will observe, document, and transmit all data back to us. We've set up a secure channel through the Chronos lens. The data will stream automatically. Do not engage. Do not interfere. Your mission is to be a ghost. We need to map the full extent of the distortion before we can formulate a plan for intervention." He pulled up a map of downtown Boston on the holographic display, highlighting a specific area. "Marcus Thorne's architectural firm is located here. He spends most of his days there. Occasionally, he visits construction sites or public libraries for research. He has a predictable routine. We want you to observe him and the environment around him for a full 24-hour cycle. A full 24 hours. Alone. In a reality that wasn't mine. Observing a man whose life was unraveling because of me. The weight of it was crushing. What if I see something dangerous? Something that threatens someone?" Eris's expression hardened slightly. "Your priority is the mission, Alex. Any intervention, no matter how well-intentioned, could trigger unforeseen consequences, potentially worsening the situation. We understand the moral implications, but the stability of this entire timeline hangs in the balance. We cannot afford heroics. Not yet." His words were a cold splash of water. No heroics. Just observation. It felt wrong, but I understood the logic, a chilling utilitarian logic. "You'll be provided with a discrete communication device, a secure comms link to me. Use it only if absolutely necessary, for critical updates or emergencies. Otherwise, maintain radio silence. We've prepared a cover identity for you. Alex Miller, a freelance urban photographer working on a project about Boston's architecture. It gives you a reason to be in the vicinity and to carry equipment." A backpack was placed on the table next to the comms device. Inside, I saw a high-end digital camera, extra lenses, and a few personal items. It was all so mundane, so normal for a mission that was anything but. "Your transportation is ready," Eris announced, gesturing towards a door I hadn't noticed before. "A discreet vehicle will take you to your drop-off point. Remember, Alex, every flicker, every misplaced object, every whisper you hear through the Chronos lens is a clue. Our survival depends on your perception." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. This was it. No more theories, no more abstract discussions. This was real. This was a mission. I was about to step out into a world that was both familiar and alien, armed with nothing but a pair of glasses and a desperate hope that I could somehow fix the mess I'd made. As I walked towards the door, the Chronos lens still perched on my nose, I caught another flicker. This time it was more defined. A brief, ghostly image of a woman, her face blurry, superimposed over Eris's shoulder. She was gone in an instant, a whisper of a memory, a wisp of smoke. But the image, however fleeting, felt eerily familiar. My blood ran cold. Was it Emily? Was she an echo in this reality too? The thought spurred a new kind of dread. a personal terror layered onto the cosmic one. I pushed open the door, stepping into a dimly lit corridor, the sterile room pressing in behind me, a suffocating blanket of dread. I was no longer just Alex, a software engineer with a troubled past. I was a desperate agent, a reluctant savior, hurtling towards an impossible mission to save a reality I barely recognized. And the first ghost of my past had just appeared before my eyes. My breath hitched, a cold knot tightening in my stomach as my eyes locked onto hers. It was Sarah. No doubt it was Sarah. But not my Sarah. Not the one from the life I'd shattered, the one whose memory had haunted me for years. This Sarah stood taller, her posture more rigid, an air of fierce intellect replacing the gentle warmth I remembered. Her hair, once a cascade of auburn waves, was pulled back into a severe, elegant braid, and her eyes, the same startling blue, held a sharp, almost guarded intensity I'd never seen before. She was walking purposefully across what appeared to be a university quad, a stack of thick textbooks clutched to her chest, her brow furrowed in concentration. My heart hammered against my ribs, a chaotic drumbeat of recognition and profound alienation. In my timeline, Sarah had been an aspiring artist, a free spirit who saw beauty in chaos. Here she exuded an aura of academia, of rigorous thought. The disconnect was jarring, almost painful. I ducked behind a sprawling oak, my mind racing. This wasn't just a random person with a familiar face. This was Sarah. What did her presence here mean? Was this a cruel twist of fate, or a vital clue? I had to know. I had to approach her, even if the thought made my palms sweat. Every instinct screamed caution, but the desperate agent, the reluctant savior, knew this was a path I couldn't ignore. Waiting for her to pause at a bench, lost in thought as she thumbed through a page, I took a deep breath and stepped out, adopting a casual, slightly bewildered demeanor. "Excuse me," I began, my voice a little rougher than I intended. "I'm so sorry, but you look incredibly familiar. Have we met before?" Her head snapped up, those intense blue eyes narrowing slightly as they swept over me. There was no flicker of recognition, no softening of her features, just a cool, analytical gaze. My heart sank. She didn't know me. Of course she didn't. This wasn't my timeline. "I don't believe so," she replied, her voice clear and precise, utterly devoid of the playful lilt I remembered. "My name is Dr. Sarah Jenkins. I'm a research fellow here at the Institute for Advanced Theoretical Physics. Perhaps you've seen me at a lecture." Dr. Sarah Jenkins. Theoretical physics. My Sarah had painted watercolors, not calculated quantum mechanics. The world tilted again. "Alex Miller," I managed, extending a hand she took briefly, her grip firm, almost impersonal. "No, I'm just visiting." The resemblance was just striking. "You look exactly like someone I used to know." A faint, almost imperceptible frown touched her lips. "It happens," she said, already turning back to her book. The dismissal was polite but absolute. I couldn't let her go. "Not yet. Theoretical physics, you said? That sounds fascinating. What kind of research do you do?" I forced enthusiasm into my voice, even as my mind reeled. She hesitated, then sighed, as if accustomed to such intrusions. "My current focus is on the nature of emergent realities and the potential for quantum entanglement across macroscale systems. We're exploring the implications of the Kronos event and its ripple effects on observed phenomena." My blood ran cold. The Kronos event. Was this it? The choice that split my timeline? The Kronos event? I feigned ignorance, my voice carefully neutral. "I'm not familiar. Is that a recent development?" She looked at me, a hint of professional exasperation in her eyes. "It's the most significant scientific breakthrough of the last 2 decades, Mr. Miller. A paradigm shift. In 20XX, a team at CERN, led by Dr. Elias Thorne, successfully theorized and then experimentally verified the existence of localized temporal displacement fields. The Kronos event refers to the initial accidental activation of one such field, which resulted in a measurable, albeit subtle, alteration to the universal constant of entropy within our observable universe. It opened the door to understanding how reality itself might be malleable." My head buzzed. Elias Thorne. The name was vaguely familiar, a shadowy figure from some scientific journal I might have skimmed in my original timeline, but certainly not a household name. And the idea that reality was malleable. It wasn't a philosophical concept here. It was a scientific fact, proven, studied, and named. So you're saying time travel? I pressed, trying to keep my voice even. She scoffed, a quick, sharp sound. Not in the way sci-fi portrays it, Mr. Miller. More like localized reality shaping. We're talking about microscale temporal shifts in causality that over time could lead to divergent outcomes. The Chronos event wasn't about sending a person back in time, but about the discovery that a single specific action, under the right conditions, could branch a quantum state into a new, observable reality. A single specific action, my choice, the choice I'd made or failed to make. It echoed in her words, amplified by the chilling precision of scientific jargon. And these divergent outcomes? I asked, pushing further, my gaze fixed on her. Are they significant? Potentially catastrophic, she stated, her voice losing its academic detachment, a flicker of genuine concern crossing her face. Our models suggest that while the initial Chronos event was contained, the underlying principles could be weaponized, or worse, accidentally triggered on a larger scale. Imagine a cascade of choices branching off, creating an unstable multiverse. Our research is trying to predict and ideally prevent such an event to understand the anchors of our reality. Anchors of reality. The concept felt like a physical weight in my chest. If I was the divergence, the choice that created this timeline, was I also the key to anchoring it back? Or was I an agent of its destruction? So if someone were to, say, inadvertently cause one of these temporal displacements, I ventured, choosing my words carefully, would they even know it happened? She paused, her eyes searching mine, a hint of suspicion now. It's highly unlikely for an untrained individual to cause such a displacement. The energy requirements alone are immense. But if they did, Mr. Miller, they might experience what we call temporal resonance, a persistent echo of the original timeline. Disorientation, fragmented memories, a sense of profound wrongness. The brain trying to reconcile two conflicting realities. She was describing my exact symptoms. The headaches, the flashes, the gut-wrenching feeling of being in a world that wasn't quite mine. It wasn't just my imagination. It was a known phenomenon in this timeline, studied and categorized. I was a living, breathing case study of the Chronos event's aftermath. And what about the people in the changed reality? I continued, my voice barely a whisper. Would they be aware of the original timeline? No, she said, shaking her head. To them, this reality is absolute. The original timeline would simply cease to exist in their perception, replaced by the new causal chain. Only the agent of the displacement, the one who initiated the choice, would retain any memory, and even then, it would be fractured and unreliable. My blood ran cold. This meant everyone I knew here, if they even existed, would genuinely believe this was the only reality. They wouldn't know what they'd lost. They wouldn't know the world that was. My parents, my friends, even Sarah. This Sarah. She had no idea the life she could have lived, the person she could have been, the connection we could have had. The weight of that knowledge was crushing. Dr. Jenkins, I said, my voice gaining a desperate edge I couldn't hide. What if someone did cause such a displacement? What would be the implications? For the individual, for the universe? She regarded me for a long moment, her academic facade cracking slightly to reveal a flicker of something deeper. Concern, perhaps even fear. The implications are staggering, Mr. Miller. For the individual, it would be a profound psychological burden, a constant struggle with cognitive dissonance. For the universe, it speaks to the very fragility of existence. If one choice can ripple through time and rewrite reality, what prevents another? What if an entire timeline could be erased, simply because one variable was altered? She stood up, gathering her books, her gaze now distant, lost in the terrifying possibilities of her own research. We believe the Chronos event was not truly accidental in its initial activation. The energy signature was too precise, too targeted. There are those who believe Dr. Thorne, in his brilliance, stumbled upon something far more profound than he intended, and that the Chronos event was merely a side effect of a larger, more deliberate experiment. Or perhaps a weapon. A weapon. The word hung in the air, chilling me to the bone. My choice wasn't just a personal failing. It was a potential cosmic catastrophe, a ripple in a fragile reality, and someone or something might have orchestrated it. Dr. Jenkins, I urged, stepping closer, is there any way to reverse it? To put things back? She looked at me then, her blue eyes piercing, as if seeing something in me she hadn't before. Our current models suggest that once a timeline branches, it becomes increasingly stable and self-sustaining. Reversing it would require an energy expenditure beyond anything we can conceive, and a precise understanding of the original branching point, the exact choice that initiated the divergence. It's a theoretical impossibility at this stage, Mr. Miller. We can only study, predict, and hope to prevent further instability. She turned to leave, her words a final devastating blow. But then she paused, looking back over her shoulder. You seem unusually invested in this, Mr. Miller. Is there something you're not telling me? My heart leaped into my throat. Had I shown too much? No, I lied, my voice strained. It's just a lot to take in. The idea of reality being so fragile. She nodded slowly, a thoughtful, almost suspicious expression on her face. Indeed, changes everything. Well, if you're truly interested, keep an eye on the Institute's publications. We're on the cusp of some groundbreaking discoveries. With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the bustling campus crowd, leaving me alone with her chilling words. She was right. Changed everything. My choice hadn't just altered my life. It had cracked the very foundation of reality, creating a world where Sarah was a brilliant physicist, a world where the Chronos event was a scientific fact, and where the possibility of further catastrophic divergences loomed large. I was no longer just dealing with my personal regrets. I was entangled in a cosmic experiment, a timeline teetering on the edge of an unknown abyss. And the choice was not merely a past event, but a living, breathing threat, waiting to be unleashed again. My mission, once a vague imperative, had just become terrifyingly clear, and infinitely more dangerous. The words echoed in the silence of Michael's apartment, each syllable a hammer blow against the fragile walls of my understanding. Infinitely more dangerous. It wasn't just about finding Michael anymore, or even understanding what had happened to him. It was about stopping a force, a mechanism, a choice that could unravel reality itself again and again. My hands trembled as I gripped the worn leather of his journal. This wasn't a historical document. It was a tactical manual for a war I hadn't known was being waged. I spent the next several days in a blur of frantic energy and gnawing dread. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford, food an afterthought. My apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a holding cell. I barely left Michael's place, the journal spread open on the table, surrounded by my own notes, maps, and scribbled theories. I needed to find the pattern. If these choices were recurring, there had to be a common thread, a signature. I reread every entry, not just for clues about Michael, but for any mention, however fleeting, of other instances where reality had felt off. He spoke of subtle shifts, moments when he'd felt a dissonance, a slight tremor in the fabric of his world. He'd initially dismissed them as fatigue or stress, but in retrospect, they were the faint aftershocks of a timeline fracturing. One recurring phrase began to stand out, almost hidden in plain sight. The fulcrum. Michael used it to describe the specific point, the exact decision that triggered a split. It wasn't just any choice, he theorized, but one made under extreme pressure, with profound, irrevocable consequences for at least one individual, often many. And crucially, it seemed to be a choice between two equally devastating, yet profoundly different outcomes. A true Sophie's choice, but for reality itself. He had started documenting these fulcrum events, not by their specific outcomes, but by their nature. Critical medical decision, a last-minute investment, a hurried confession, a missed flight. Each one, a seemingly ordinary moment, transformed into a cosmic pivot point. What made these choices special? Why did they split timelines when billions of other choices didn't? Michael had a theory, bold and terrifying, scrawled in the margins of a particularly dense entry. He believed these choices weren't entirely random. He suspected there was an influence. Not a direct manipulation, but a subtle nudge, a whisper in the subconscious, guiding individuals towards the precipice of a fulcrum event. He even dared to suggest a name, or rather a designation. The Weavers. The Weavers. The name sent a chill down my spine. It implied an intelligence, an agency behind the chaos. Were they benevolent guardians trying to prune divergent realities, or something far more sinister, harvesting timelines for an unknown purpose? Michael didn't know. He only knew they existed, and that their influence was growing stronger, the intervals between fulcrum events shortening. His last coherent entries were a desperate attempt to predict the next fulcrum. He had developed a complex algorithm, a convoluted mess of statistics, historical data, and what he called anomalous energetic spikes he claimed to detect. It was pure madness, yet given everything else I couldn't dismiss it. I scoured his digital files, his old hard drives, anything I could find. He had left behind a labyrinth of encrypted data, but I'd learned enough from his journal to know his methods, his particular brand of paranoia. After hours, my eyes burning, I found it. A hidden folder, labeled simply Project Chimera. Inside were spreadsheets, geospatial data, and a series of dates. Most of them had passed, corresponding roughly to the timeline shifts I'd already identified. But one date circled in red stood out. It was less than 2 weeks away. Beneath the date was a location. A small, unassuming town called Havenwood, nestled deep in the Appalachian foothills. And a name, Eleanor Vance. Eleanor Vance. An ordinary name, a seemingly ordinary person, about to become the linchpin of another timeline split. Michael's notes indicated she was a renowned botanist, working on a controversial genetic modification project for a major agricultural corporation. Her work involved a critical decision point concerning the release of a new, potentially revolutionary, but also potentially devastating crop strain. The choice she was facing was imminent. Approve the final field trials, or halt the project indefinitely, risking her career, her reputation, and potentially the future of global food security, but also preventing an unknown ecological disaster. The stakes were astronomical. This wasn't some abstract concept anymore. This was a real woman with a real life, unknowingly poised on the edge of the abyss. And the Weavers, if Michael was right, were subtly pushing her towards it. My heart pounded. I had to get to Havenwood. I had to find Eleanor Vance. But what would I even say to her? "Excuse me, Dr. Vance. I'm from an alternate timeline, and I need you to not make a critical decision that could change your life and ours?" It sounded insane. The journal offered no clear instructions on how to prevent a fulcrum event, only warnings about the dangers of interfering directly. Michael believed that changing the choice itself might simply create another split, or worse, an unpredictable cascade of fractured realities. The key, he posited, was not to change what was chosen, but to change the conditions under which the choice was made, to remove the influence, to neutralize the Weaver's subtle nudge. But how? How do you fight an invisible force that whispers in people's minds? I packed a small bag, my mind racing. I grabbed Michael's journal, tucking it securely into a hidden pocket. I felt a surge of adrenaline, mixed with a chilling sense of inadequacy. I was an ordinary person, thrown into an extraordinary, impossible mission. I had no special skills, no training in timeline preservation. All I had was Michael's frantic research and a burning desire to prevent the world from tearing itself apart. As I drove, the landscape blurring outside my window, I tried to piece together the implications. If the Weavers were real, if they were orchestrating these events, then Michael's disappearance wasn't an accident. He had gotten too close. He had become a threat to their operations. And now, by picking up his trail, I was putting myself directly in their crosshairs. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I was no longer just a curious investigator. I was an active participant, a target. Every decision I made, every step I took, could have unforeseen consequences. The very act of trying to prevent a timeline split could, paradoxically, be the very thing that caused another one. It was a terrifying paradox, a cosmic catch-22. I thought about Jessica. Where was she in all of this? Was her timeline the original one or just another branch? Had she ever felt the subtle shifts, the moments of dissonance? The idea that everyone I knew, everything I held dear, could be a mere echo of a different reality was profoundly unsettling. It stripped away the very foundation of my existence. The journey to Havenwood felt endless. Each mile brought me closer to Eleanor Vance, closer to the fulcrum, closer to the unknown Weavers. I knew I was walking into a situation far beyond my comprehension, a game played by forces I couldn't even begin to understand. But the alternative, doing nothing, letting reality fracture again and again, was unthinkable. My mission had evolved from a personal quest to find Michael into a desperate race against an unseen enemy, a fight to preserve the very fabric of existence. And as I neared Havenwood, a new, more horrifying possibility began to coalesce in my mind. What if the choice wasn't just about individual decisions? What if, at some point, the Weavers intended to force a choice that affected everyone? A choice that could split the entire human timeline, not just a few personal realities, but the collective future of humanity itself. The thought was paralyzing, painting a picture of an ultimate, catastrophic fulcrum event, one that would redefine existence for every living soul. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, the weight of the world pressing down on me. I had to stop it. I just didn't know how. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, the weight of the world pressing down on me. I had to stop it. I just didn't know how. My mind raced, frantically sifting through the fragmented memories of 1,000 timelines, searching for an answer, a clue, anything that could make sense of the impending catastrophe. The fulcrum event. The name echoed in my head, a chilling prophecy of the end. Suddenly a flicker. Not an echo of another life, but a memory from this life, or what I now understood to be the primary, albeit fractured, timeline. A conversation I dismissed as abstract academic rambling, now bursting into vivid clarity. Dr. Evelyn Reed, my former mentor, a brilliant, eccentric theoretical physicist. She had always been fascinated by the obscure corners of quantum mechanics, by the very nature of reality itself. I remembered a late-night discussion in her cluttered office years ago. We were talking about a theoretical concept she called temporal entanglement cascades. She described a scenario where a singular, highly improbable event, a nodal choice as she put it, could create such extreme divergence in the fabric of space-time that reality itself would struggle to maintain coherence. It would be like an overloaded circuit, she'd mused, her eyes alight with intellectual fervor. Eventually, the system would have to perform a hard reset, a catastrophic self-correction. At the time, I'd laughed it off, attributing it to her wild imagination. Now the words felt like a death sentence. Evelyn. She was my only hope. If anyone could understand what was happening, it was her. But where was she? After her controversial theories started attracting too much skepticism, she'd vanished from the academic world, retreating into obscurity. My phone felt impossibly heavy in my hand. I started with old university records, then obscure scientific journals, eventually even social media archives, though she was never one for public profiles. It took hours tracing digital breadcrumbs, following leads that often evaporated into dead ends. Each failed search was a fresh stab of panic. The air outside felt heavier, the light seemed to flicker almost imperceptibly, as if reality itself was losing its grip. Finally, I found an address, tucked away in the footnotes of a niche physics forum. A small, unassuming house on the outskirts of Burlington, Vermont. It was a long drive, but I didn't hesitate. The highway blurred past, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Every mile felt like a race against an invisible clock. When I finally pulled up to the address, it was exactly as I'd imagined. A quaint, slightly overgrown cottage, nestled amongst tall pines. A faint light glowed from an upstairs window. I knocked, a tentative sound that seemed swallowed by the oppressive silence of the evening. After a long moment, the door creaked open. Evelyn Reed stood there. She looked older, her once fiery red hair now streaked with silver, pulled back in a messy bun. Her eyes, however, still held that intense, piercing intelligence. She wore a worn cardigan over a t-shirt emblazoned with a diagram of a wormhole. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice raspy, a hint of weariness in her tone. She didn't recognize me. Not fully, anyway. "Dr. Reed," I began, my voice tight with urgency. "It's Michael. Michael Thompson. From the university. Years ago." Her brow furrowed. "Michael Thompson. I recall a bright young man by that name. But you look different. Older, certainly. And a bit frantic, if I may say so. It's about the temporal entanglement cascades," I blurted out, skipping all pleasantries. "The fulcrum event. It's happening, Evelyn. Everything you theorized, it's coming true." Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly. A flicker of something, recognition mixed with alarm, crossed her face. She studied me for a long moment, then slowly, cautiously, opened the door wider. "Come in, Michael. You look like you've seen a ghost. Or perhaps, a glimpse of every ghost that ever was." Inside, the house was a chaotic wonderland of books, scientific papers, and strange contraptions I couldn't identify. Boards covered in complex equations adorned the walls. She led me to a small, cluttered living room. "Explain," she said, gesturing to a worn armchair. "And be precise. My theories were just that, theories. I need more than a frantic young man repeating old concepts." I took a deep breath, trying to organize the whirlwind of my experiences into a coherent narrative. I told her everything. The initial choice, the sudden splintering of my reality, the constant echoes of other lives, the growing instability, the terrifying message from the other Michael, and the impending fulcrum event. I described the subtle shifts, the moments of déjà vu that were no longer just feelings but actual glimpses of diverging paths. As I spoke, Evelyn listened intently, her expression shifting from skepticism to a growing, chilling understanding. When I finished, the silence in the room was deafening. "So you're saying," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "that your choice acted as the nodal event? The initiator of the cascade?" "I think so," I said, my voice hoarse. "The other Michael, he called it the trigger. He said I opened a door I couldn't close." Evelyn walked over to one of her whiteboards, picked up a marker, and began to draw furiously, connecting abstract symbols and equations. "My initial models," she murmured, more to herself than to me, "posited that such an event would require an immense amount of localized temporal energy, something beyond human capability, or even our most advanced accelerators." She paused, then turned to me, her eyes drilling into mine. Unless it wasn't about raw power but about a specific highly sensitive interaction. A resonant frequency, perhaps. "Tell me, Michael, what exactly was this choice? What did you do?" I hesitated. The memory was still hazy, shrouded in the chaos of the immediate aftermath. "It wasn't a grand experiment, Evelyn. Not like your work. It was a project. Something I was developing. A new kind of predictive algorithm, designed to model complex probabilistic outcomes. I was trying to optimize it, to push its limits. I remember a moment, a specific sequence of code, a unique data input. And then the world just shifted." Evelyn slammed her marker down on the table. A sudden sharp sound. "A predictive algorithm? Modeling probabilistic outcomes? Michael, are you telling me you built a system that could effectively see the future, or at least the potential futures, and then you tried to force a specific outcome?" "I was trying to make it more efficient," I defended, though even to my own ears it sounded weak. "To refine its ability to converge on the most optimal path." "Optimal path?" she scoffed, though there was no malice, only profound revelation in her tone. "You didn't just build a model, Michael. You built a mirror, reflecting all possible realities. And then you tried to edit one of those reflections, to impose your will upon the probabilistic fabric of existence itself. That's not optimization. That's an attempt to become a temporal architect without understanding the blueprints." She paced the room, running a hand through her already disheveled hair. "My theories always assumed an external force, a cosmic anomaly. But if a sufficiently complex system, designed to interact with and influence probability, were to cross a certain threshold, it could act as a localized singularity, a microfulcrum, creating an exponential divergence of timelines from that single point. Your choice wasn't just a choice, Michael. It was the choice, the one that broke the dam." Just then, the lights in the room flickered violently, plunging us into momentary darkness before sputtering back to life. A low hum vibrated through the floorboards, and a glass beaker on a nearby shelf rattled, then slowly, impossibly, tilted and fell, shattering on the floor. Evelyn didn't even flinch. She just stared at the broken glass, her expression grim. "The cascade is accelerating. These aren't just localized anomalies anymore. Reality is starting to unravel at the seams. The fulcrum event isn't just a theoretical collapse. It's a desperate, violent attempt by the universe to correct itself, to prune away the impossible branches you created." "So what do we do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How do we stop it?" She turned back to me, her eyes wide with a terrifying blend of fear and scientific exhilaration. "The only way to stop a cascade is to stabilize the nodal point, the very origin of the divergence. You have to go back to your choice, Michael. To that moment, that sequence of code, that unique input. But it's not enough to simply observe it. You have to reintegrate the timelines, to force them back into a single coherent stream." "How?" I pressed, the hum in the floorboards growing louder, more insistent. Outside, the wind howled, but it wasn't a natural sound. It was a hungry, tearing sound. "By making a different choice," she said, her voice dropping to a grave whisper. "A choice that undoes the original divergence. But there's a catch, Michael. A terrible, unavoidable catch. You can't just choose differently. You have to absorb the consequences of all those divergent timelines. All the versions of you, all their experiences, all their choices. You have to become the singular point of convergence yourself. and hope your mind, your very being, can withstand the strain. The implication hit me like a physical blow. To become every Michael, to experience every life, every joy, every sorrow, every failure, every success, all at once. It sounded like madness. And if I can't? I asked, dread coiling in my gut. Evelyn looked out the window, her gaze fixed on something I couldn't see. The sky outside was no longer just dark. It was twisting, rippling like disturbed water. Then the universe makes the choice for you. And when it does, Michael, there won't be anything left. She turned back, her face pale. The calculations indicate the final convergence will occur at the precise location and moment of your initial choice. It's drawing everything back to the origin point like a cosmic drain. We don't have much time. The window is closing rapidly. The hum intensified, and the very air around us seemed to crackle with an unseen energy. I knew what I had to do. I had to go back to the source, to the scene of my original choice. But this time I wouldn't be optimizing a program. I'd be trying to save reality itself, with the terrifying knowledge that the cost of failure would be everything. The city outside the window was a kaleidoscope of broken memories. Buildings shimmered, their facades flickering between different architectural styles from various eras. Pedestrians walked in stuttering loops, repeating the same 3 steps, then snapping back to their starting point, their faces blank. The air itself felt thin, stretched taut, vibrating with a dissonant hum that grated on my nerves. Every breath was a struggle against the growing unreality, but I couldn't dwell on the horror show around me. My focus had to be absolute. I pushed through the phantom crowds, their ghostly forms occasionally overlapping mine, sending chills down my spine. My destination was clear. The old, forgotten server farm beneath the city, the very heart of the system that had unknowingly become the catalyst for this quantum nightmare. The journey was a gauntlet. Streets I knew intimately warped and twisted, leading me down alleys that dissolved into brick walls, then reappearing moments later as if they'd always been there. I navigated by instinct, by a desperate internal compass that pointed towards the source of my fateful decision. The deeper I went, the more pronounced the glitches became. Cars on the highway froze in midair, then fell silently to the asphalt, only to vanish before hitting the ground. The sky itself rippled like disturbed water. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of navigating a fractured dreamscape, I reached the nondescript entrance to the underground facility. The access panel flickered with static, its display showing garbled code. My old ID card, which should have been useless, felt surprisingly heavy in my hand. I swiped it. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, with a groan that seemed to echo from multiple dimensions at once, the heavy steel door slid open. The server room was worse than I could have imagined. It was a maelstrom of light and sound. Rows upon rows of server racks stretched into a distorted perspective, some appearing as solid, humming machines, others as translucent outlines, phasing in and out of existence. Cables snaked across the floor, some glowing with an unnatural energy, others dissolving into sparks. The constant hum of the machines was now a cacophony of overlapping frequencies, a chorus of digital screams and whispers that threatened to shatter my sanity. The air was thick with ozone and the metallic tang of something burning, something wrong. I fought down a wave of nausea, clutching the worn backpack containing my last hope. My eyes scanned the chaotic scene, searching for the specific terminal, the exact station where I had made the choice. It wasn't hard to find. It stood out, not because it was pristine, but because it was the epicenter of the most violent temporal distortions. The screen flickered wildly, displaying not just one operating system, but layers of overlapping interfaces, each from a slightly different timeline. I could see my original code, but also variations of it, branching off into infinite possibilities. This was it. The Nexus. I dropped my backpack and pulled out the specialized hardware I'd painstakingly assembled. A quantum entanglement modulator, a custom-built interface, and a heavily modified data drive containing the recalibration code. My plan, cobbled together from fragmented memories, theoretical physics papers I barely understood, and sheer desperation, was audacious to the point of madness. My initial optimization choice had, I now understood, acted as a singular point of quantum divergence. By making a choice that had ripple effects throughout the system, I hadn't just changed a program. I had subtly nudged the fundamental parameters of reality, causing a cascade of timeline splits. To fix it, I couldn't simply undo the choice. Reality didn't work like that. Instead, I had to introduce a countermeasure, a new optimization that would prioritize stability and coherence over efficiency. I needed to collapse the divergent timelines back into their original stable configuration. I needed to recalibrate the quantum entanglement matrix itself. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I began connecting the equipment. My hands, surprisingly steady despite the tremors running through my body, moved with a practiced precision born of years of working with complex systems. The custom interface connected directly to the primary data port of the terminal. As I plugged it in, the screen before me flared, displaying a torrent of warning messages in multiple, overlapping fonts. System integrity compromised. Temporal divergence detected. Reality cascade imminent. A chill went down my spine. Imminent. I was running out of time. I powered on my modulator. It hummed to life, emitting a soft, ethereal blue glow that pulsed in sync with my racing heartbeat. This device was designed to interact with the system's core quantum processors, the very heart of what made the original optimization so powerful and so dangerous. The next step was the most critical: injecting the recalibration code. This code wasn't just about reversing a program. It was a complex algorithm designed to identify and realign the divergent quantum states, forcing them back into a singular, coherent timeline. It was a digital prayer, a Hail Mary pass to save everything I held dear. As I began to upload the data drive, the server room reacted violently. Lights flickered, plunging the space into momentary darkness before flaring back to blinding intensity. The ground beneath my feet vibrated, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to come from the very fabric of existence. One of the adjacent server racks, a solid piece of machinery just moments before, dissolved into a cloud of shimmering particles, then reformed, only to be composed of what looked like ancient, rusting gears. A phantom voice, barely a whisper, echoed through the cacophony. It sounded like my own voice, but distorted, layered with 1,000 other voices, all speaking at once, all saying, "You can't fix this. It's too late. You chose." I grit my teeth, ignoring the spectral taunt. It was a manifestation of the timeline's instability, trying to break my resolve. I focused on the progress bar on my screen, watching it crawl agonizingly slowly. Every percentage point felt like an eternity. My mind raced back to Emily, to David, to the world I remembered. Was it still out there? Was there still a version of it waiting for me to pull it back from the brink? Or had I already lost them all? The thought fueled my resolve, turning my fear into a cold, hard determination. I wouldn't let them go. I couldn't. Suddenly, a jolt. The progress bar froze at 87%. An error message flashed, bigger and bolder than the rest, consuming the entire screen. Core reality lockdown initiated. Unable to modify parameters. My heart sank. Lockdown. What did that mean? Was the system fighting back, trying to preserve its fractured state? Or was it something else, something even more insidious? I frantically typed, trying to override the lockdown to find a backdoor, anything. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a blur of motion. The air around me grew heavy, pressing down, making it hard to breathe. The phantom whispers grew louder, more insistent, pulling at the edges of my sanity. Then a sudden blinding flash. The entire server room went silent for a split second, a terrifying void of sound and light. When it returned, the noise was amplified, the distortions more extreme, and standing directly in front of me, between me and the terminal, was a figure. It was indistinct, shimmering like a heat haze on asphalt, but undeniably human-shaped. As I stared, transfixed by terror, its form solidified, coalescing into something disturbingly familiar. It was me, or rather, a version of me. This version was gaunt, with hollow eyes that held an infinite sadness, and a faint, almost transparent quality to his skin. He wore clothes that seemed to shift between different styles, like the buildings outside. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Instead, a voice, deep and resonant, resonated directly in my mind. Asterisk, you cannot undo what has been done. Every choice creates a path. You have created infinite paths. Asterisk. I stumbled back, my hand instinctively reaching for the emergency override on my modulator. Who are you? I demanded, my voice a mere whisper against the roar of the servers. The spectral me smiled, a mirthless, chilling gesture. Asterisk. I am the sum of your divergences. I am the consequence. And I am here to ensure stability, even if that stability is chaos. Asterisk. He raised a translucent hand, and I felt an immense pressure, a crushing weight that threatened to pin me to the ground. The error message on the screen flared, now accompanied by a countdown. Core reality collapse initiating Imon to minus 60 seconds. This wasn't just a lockdown. It was a self-destruct sequence for reality itself. My other self, the sum of my mistakes, was trying to stop me, to preserve the fractured state, or perhaps to end it all. I had one shot. One desperate, terrifying gamble. I had to bypass the lockdown, upload the recalibration code, and initiate the sequence before the countdown hit 0. And I had to do it with this spectral guardian of chaos standing directly in my path. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my eyes darting between the countdown, the spectral figure, and the complex lines of code I needed to execute. This was it. The ultimate choice. The ultimate choice. My mind raced, 1,000 calculations, a million what-ifs, all compressed into a single agonizing second. The spectral guardian shimmered, its form solidifying just enough to project an aura of absolute dread. A silent scream of warning that reverberated not in my ears, but directly in the core of my being. It wasn't just a vision anymore. It was an active barrier, a century of causality. Then, a new wave of something akin to temporal distortion washed over me. The lab around me flickered, not just visually but experientially. For a microsecond, the pristine white walls dissolved into a crumbling ruin, the hum of the servers replaced by the distant wail of sirens, the sterile air by the stench of ozone and ash. I saw Sarah not smiling, but her face etched with a despair so profound it stole my breath. It was a glimpse, a horrifying premonition of a timeline where my inaction led to utter devastation, a future the spectral being was trying to protect me from, or perhaps trying to force me into. No, I wouldn't be swayed by fear. I wouldn't be paralyzed by a vision, real or imagined. This wasn't about choosing between two bad outcomes. It was about choosing to fight for the only good outcome I could still grasp. I had come too far, sacrificed too much to back down now. Sarah's true smile, her vibrant life, depended on this. The real Sarah, not the broken image I'd just witnessed. With a guttural cry that was more a gasp of desperate defiance, I lunged forward, my fingers slamming onto the keyboard. The spectral figure reacted instantly. A chilling, silent roar erupted from its form, and a wave of pure, concentrated kinetic force slammed into my chest. I stumbled back, my chair scraping violently against the floor, but I didn't fall. My eyes locked onto the screen, the countdown now a blur of red, ticking down to single digits. My hands flew across the keys, a blur of motion fueled by adrenaline and a desperate primal need to succeed. The code, carefully crafted over days and nights of excruciating work, began to flow. Each line was a prayer, a desperate plea for reality to bend to my will, to correct the cascading errors I had inadvertently unleashed. The spectral guardian wasn't just observing now. It was actively interfering. Its shadowy tendrils, like wisps of cosmic dust, reached out, attempting to grasp my wrists, to freeze my muscles, to inject doubt and despair directly into my neural pathways. My vision blurred, my head pounded, and a cacophony of distorted whispers filled my mind, voices screaming warnings, accusations, promises of unimaginable pain. "Stop!" the whispers shrieked, echoing the spectral being's silent command. "You fool! You tamper with forces beyond comprehension. You will break everything. You will break yourself." I gritted my teeth, ignoring the pain, the mental assault, the physical resistance. My fingers ached, my forearms burned, but I kept typing, each keystroke a defiant act of will against the encroaching chaos. I felt a cold dread seeping into my bones, a sensation of being stretched thin, of my very essence being pulled in opposing directions. It was as if the fabric of reality itself was resisting my intrusion, fighting back against the attempt to mend its wounds. The countdown hit 3, 2, 1. With a final desperate surge of energy, I slammed my palm onto the enter key. The world exploded, not with a bang, but with a blinding incandescent white light that swallowed everything. The spectral guardian, caught in the sudden discharge of raw temporal energy, shrieked a soundless scream that nevertheless tore through my mind, a symphony of agony and fury. Its form contorted, twisting into impossible geometries, stretching and snapping like a cosmic rubber band before dissipating into a million shimmering motes of light that vanished into the all-consuming brilliance. The light was so intense it burned behind my closed eyelids, searing itself into my retina. I felt a colossal, wrenching force tear through my entire being, as if every atom in my body was simultaneously being ripped apart and then reassembled at an infinitesimally different angle. My ears popped, A deafening crack that felt like my skull had split open. The air around me superheated, then instantly chilled, then vibrated with an impossible frequency, making my teeth ache and my bones rattle. I was falling, yet I was standing. I was screaming, yet no sound escaped my lips. I was seeing, yet my eyes were closed. It was an experience beyond human comprehension, a direct interface with the raw mechanics of reality. I felt time itself stretch and snap, heard the thrumming of a million parallel universes, glimpsed the infinite branches of causality unfolding and folding back upon themselves. My consciousness fractured. For a terrifying eternity, I was everywhere and nowhere. I was David sitting in the lab, bleeding from my nose, my fingers still resting on the keyboard. But I was also David, a child on a playground scraping his knee. I was David, an old man, watching the sunset with a woman I didn't recognize. I was David standing on a precipice, staring into an abyss. Every potential version of myself, every path I might have taken, every life I might have lived, flashed through my mind in an instant, a torrent of impossible memories. Then the fracturing stopped. The blinding light began to recede, leaving behind an afterimage of pure magenta that pulsed against the darkness of my eyelids. The impossible vibrations lessened, replaced by a low, resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. The sensation of being torn apart slowly subsided, replaced by an overwhelming exhaustion, a profound emptiness that settled deep within my bones. Slowly, tentatively, I opened my eyes. The lab was still there, but it wasn't the same. Everything seemed subtly altered, shifted by an imperceptible degree. The light fixtures hummed with a different frequency. The shadows clung to the corners with a deeper intensity. The air itself felt heavier, imbued with a strange metallic tang. The monitors on my desk were dark, but the power light on the massive server rack in the corner glowed a steady, reassuring green. The countdown was gone. The spectral guardian was gone. I pushed myself up, my muscles screaming in protest, my head throbbing with a dull, persistent ache. My body felt heavy, sluggish, as if I had just run a marathon through molasses. I stumbled towards the server, my reflection in the dark screen catching my eye. My face was pale, streaked with sweat and a thin trickle of blood from my nose. My eyes, however, held a new depth, a haunted knowledge that hadn't been there before. I had done it. I had executed the code. I had made the choice. But as I looked around the room, a chilling realization slowly began to dawn on me. The changes weren't just superficial. They were fundamental. The framed photograph of Sarah on my desk, the one I cherished, the one that had been my constant motivation, was subtly different. Her smile was still radiant, her eyes still sparkled, but there was a faint, almost imperceptible scar just above her left eyebrow that I had never seen before. A scar that wasn't there in my memory. My heart hammered against my ribs. I reached out, my fingers trembling as I traced the phantom mark on the glass. This wasn't just a repaired timeline. It was an altered one. My intervention, my desperate attempt to fix the past, hadn't merely restored what was lost. It had, in its colossal energy expenditure, in its violent forcing of reality, created something entirely new. The choice had not simply mended the timeline. It had fractured it, creating a new branch, a divergent path that now existed parallel to the old. And I, David, was now somehow anchored to both, or perhaps to neither. The spectral guardian, I now understood, hadn't been trying to stop me from fixing the timeline. It had been trying to stop me from splitting it. It had been a manifestation of the timeline's inherent resistance to being fundamentally rewritten, a desperate plea from causality itself to leave well enough alone. And I hadn't listened. A profound sense of isolation washed over me. I had achieved my goal, but the victory felt hollow, tainted by an unbearable weight of consequence. I had saved Sarah, perhaps, but what version of Sarah? And what had I become in the process? I walked to the window, my legs unsteady, and looked out. The city lights twinkled below, a familiar yet strangely alien tapestry. The sky was the same, the stars were the same, but I felt an undeniable shift in the very fabric of existence, a subtle hum beneath the surface of reality that only I could perceive. It was the sound of two worlds, two timelines coexisting, intertwined, yet distinct. I had made my choice, and now I had to live with its impossible, terrifying repercussions. The timeline wasn't just split. I was split. My past, my memories, my very identity felt like a tapestry woven with threads from different realities. I had opened Pandora's box, and what had emerged was not chaos, but a far more insidious form of order. a parallel existence, an echo of what was, and a shadow of what could have been. The profound silence of the lab pressed in around me, broken only by the low hum of the server and the frantic beating of my own heart. I was no longer just David. I was a bridge between realities, a living paradox. And the true cost of my choice, the true nature of this split timeline, was only just beginning to reveal itself. The true cost of my choice, the true nature of this split timeline, was only just beginning to reveal itself. It wasn't just about seeing two versions of the world, it was about being two versions simultaneously, and the crushing weight of maintaining that impossible duality. The hum of the server wasn't just an external sound anymore. It resonated deep within my bones, a constant vibration that felt like my very atoms were trying to decide which reality to occupy. My perception fractured. I'd reach for a coffee cup, and for a split second I'd see two cups, one chipped, one pristine, overlapping like phantom images before coalescing into a single dizzying reality. Conversations became a nightmare. Sarah would ask me about a meeting, and my mind would instantly conjure two different meetings, two different outcomes, two different sets of notes. Which one was real? Which one did she remember? I'd stammer, trying to piece together a coherent answer, feeling like a broken record skipping between tracks. Sleep offered no escape. My dreams were a chaotic tapestry of memories from both timelines. Emily laughing at our wedding, then Emily, a stranger, walking past me on the street. Michael, my best friend, celebrating a promotion, then Michael, a rival, glaring at me across a boardroom table. I was living 1,000 lives, none of them fully my own, and the constant influx of conflicting information was tearing at the fabric of my sanity. The server, I realized, wasn't the cause of the split, not entirely. It was a catalyst, an amplifier. It had tapped into something far more fundamental, something within me, within reality itself. My choice, that fateful, impulsive decision, had been the trigger. It had opened a wound in the fabric of existence, and I, David, was now the living suture, stretched thin, trying to hold two worlds together. The initial exhilaration of possibility had long since vanished, replaced by a profound, soul-crushing exhaustion. Every decision, every interaction was a battle. I tried to recall a simple fact, and two conflicting truths would present themselves, each equally vivid, equally persuasive. My identity, once a solid, unquestionable anchor, was dissolving into a shimmering, uncertain haze. Was I the David who married Emily, the one who built a life with her, who knew the warmth of her hand in his? Or was I the David who never knew that love, who chased a different ambition, who felt a hollow ache where her memory should be? Sometimes, late at night, when the city was quiet and the server's hum was the only sound, I'd feel the presence of the other David. Not as a separate entity, but as an echo within my own mind. A flicker of a thought that wasn't mine. A surge of emotion that belonged to a different life. He was me, and I was him, intertwined in a dance of existential horror. We were two sides of the same coin, but the coin was constantly spinning, refusing to land. This wasn't a superpower. It was a curse. I was a god of two worlds, but a god tearing himself apart. The value I thought I was gaining by exploring possibilities had become an unbearable burden. I was paralyzed by choice, not just a choice, but the infinite choices that had branched out from that single defining moment. I knew with a terrifying clarity that this couldn't continue. My mind was a battlefield, and the casualties were my memories, my relationships, my very sense of self. One David had to yield. One timeline had to become the dominant, singular reality. But how? How could I choose which version of my life, which version of myself deserved to exist? The answer, when it finally came, wasn't a whisper or a flash of insight. It was a slow, agonizing realization that built like a tidal wave. The server, the technology, wasn't meant to be a bridge. It was meant to be a filter. It had been designed to observe, to record, perhaps even to influence, but never to merge. My unique brain chemistry, my desperate desire to see what if, had overridden its safety protocols. I hadn't merely witnessed the split, I had become the interface. To end the duality, I had to sever the connection myself. And the connection wasn't external. It was internal. It was the part of me that was clinging to both realities, unwilling to let go of either. I returned to the server room. The air crackled with a palpable energy, a silent scream of data overload. The monitors flickered with impossible algorithms, reflecting the chaos within my own mind. I placed my hands on the cold metal casing, feeling the familiar hum, but this time, it felt less like a machine and more like a living thing. an extension of my own fractured consciousness. I can't do this anymore. I whispered, my voice hoarse, raw from the internal struggle. I can't live two lives. I closed my eyes, focusing all my will, all my shattered identity, on a single impossible task. I had to choose. Not consciously, not by weighing pros and cons, because how could you weigh the love of a wife against the pursuit of a lifelong dream? How could you choose between the warmth of a family and the thrill of unparalleled success? No, the choice had to come from a deeper place. It had to be an act of will, a declaration of existence. I had to decide which David I truly was, which path resonated most profoundly with the core of my being, even if it meant extinguishing the other. A profound silence descended, not just in the room but in my very soul. The hum faded, the flickering images in my mind stilled. For a moment there was nothing but a vast, echoing emptiness. And then a single clear memory emerged, pushing through the static, shining like a beacon. It was Emily's smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she laughed. It was the warmth of her hand in mine, walking through the park on a crisp autumn day. It was the quiet comfort of our home, the scent of her favorite candle, the shared dreams whispered in the dark. It wasn't about ambition or success. It was about connection, about love, about the quiet, profound joy of simply being with someone who understood you. It was the life I had chosen, the path I had initially walked. The other path, the path of relentless ambition, had offered a different kind of fulfillment, but it was a cold, solitary triumph. The cost of that alternative, I now realized, was too great. With a surge of agonizing clarity, I made my choice. Not to discard the other life, for it was still a part of me, a ghost of what could have been, but to commit, to anchor myself fully and irrevocably to the reality where Emily was real, where our life together was the truth. A jolt like an electric shock coursed through me. My vision blurred, not with two realities but with a blinding white light. I felt a tearing sensation, as if an invisible thread was snapping, a connection being violently severed. A profound sense of loss washed over me, a grief so deep it brought me to my knees. It was the grief for a life unlived, for experiences unfelt, for a version of myself that was now fading into the cosmic background. When I opened my eyes, the server room was just a server room. The monitors displayed coherent data. The hum was just the sound of machinery. The world was singular, solid, undeniable. I stumbled out, my legs weak, my head pounding. The world felt quieter, simpler, but also emptier. The other timeline was gone, or at least my direct connection to it was. I was David again, just David. But not entirely. The experience had left an indelible mark. I carried the ghost of another life within me, a phantom limb of possibility. I saw the world with a new depth, a new appreciation for the singularity of each moment, each choice. Every step I took, every word I spoke, was imbued with the weight of knowing what else could have been. I found Emily in our living room reading a book, a soft lamp casting a warm glow. She looked up, her smile familiar, comforting. "Hey," she said. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I managed a weak smile, walking over and pulling her into a hug, holding her tighter than I ever had before. "Something like that," I whispered into her hair, inhaling her familiar scent. "But I'm here now. I'm really here." The choice had been agonizing, the cost immense. I had sacrificed a part of myself, a whole timeline of experiences, to reclaim my own sanity, to fully inhabit the life I had chosen. The true nature of the split timeline wasn't a scientific marvel or a cosmic anomaly. It was a reflection of the profound power of human choice, and the terrifying responsibility that comes with it. We are all, in our own way, creating our realities with every decision we make. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe lets us glimpse the paths we didn't take, only to remind us of the precious, irreplaceable value of the one we did. I was David, whole again, but forever haunted by the echoes of a life I almost lived, a silent